what's like the one thing I can do to help my anxiety with my diet? And it's like, really, it's going back to the basics of, is your diet made primarily of whole foods? And by whole foods, it's really just foods found in nature and minimally processed.
I'm so excited to have you on today. I have spoken a lot on my Instagram and my podcast about my own personal struggles with anxiety. I've dealt with anxiety pretty much my whole life and have had, it's been like a roller coaster ride where I feel like I've figured it out and then it's come back really strongly. And it's just, I've had a very interesting relationship with anxiety my whole life. So I'm really excited to talk to you about anxiety and diet and lifestyle and what people can do to improve their anxiety and stress. And yeah, so I just want to dive into it.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Yay. Okay. So first and foremost, just for people to understand where you're coming from. So can you give people a little bit about your background and what really brought you into the world of wellness and talking about anxiety and mental health and all that?
Absolutely. Yes. Like yourself and probably a lot of people listening, I too have had a really long journey struggling with anxiety. And I think when I look back now, I think mine dates as early as I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I remember just being a kid and like breaking down and crying. And my mom was like, what's wrong? And I'd be like, what if this person gets sick? Or just like these like really irrational fears. And it was like, now I look back and I'm like, wow, I was just like a really anxious kid. And then I actually had my first kind of diagnosed anxiety condition when I was 14. And I started developing a really bad eating disorder. And again, now looking back, I can link it all back to my anxiety. And it was like when I was starting high school and yeah, a really ungrounding, stressful time. And then, yeah, so I guess since pretty much the age of 14, I've really been on a journey of understanding my anxiety and managing it. And I like to say that I feel like I've tried nearly every anxiety remedy under the sun. And I love to share like a little bit about that because I know it's a confusing field to navigate. And especially in today's day, it's like anxiety is rampant when it's a lot of the population is struggling with it. And for me at such a young age, I was super resistant to it. It's like I hated the idea that I had anxiety, that I had an eating disorder. I was in complete denial. My parents were super supportive and they would bring me to my doctor and try to get me to go to therapy. And I just sat in the chair and would cry. And I did not want to manage it. Tried to put me in an eating disorder clinic and I lied on the form and just wouldn't go in. And so eventually my doctor actually recommended that I go on anti-anxiety meds. And at the time I was like, okay, fine, I'll do this because I don't want to do anything else. And everyone was like, you have to do something. And yeah, I just want to make the side note too. Whenever I talk about meds, I always feel like there's so many different reasons people go on anti-anxiety meds or depression meds or whatever it is. And I'm never here to judge. And I will share my experience with it. But I know for a lot of people, it is the last resort and it can be really helpful. And for me, when I went on them, it was like instant. Like I did start to feel a lot less anxious, but also I did now, again, looking back, I realized I experienced a lot of the side effects from it. So I like instantly gained weight. I didn't really change my diet, even though I still had all of these really unfortunate relationship with food. I was like really tired all the time. I would come home from school and I would sleep 2 hours and everyone's, oh, you're just growing. It's all good. And like, I even had teachers hold me back and be like, Megan, what's wrong? It seems like you've changed. Like, it seems like you don't really care anymore. And like, at that point, I was just like, well, I don't, like, whatever. And then, yeah, it was once when I got to university, I studied kinesiology. So I was like always really interested in the human body. And then I learned about the gut-brain connection and SSRIs and just certain, because like I was on an SRI and I was like, oh, I put all these pieces together where it's, wow, I never actually tried to understand my anxiety. And I took these meds and there was like this intuitive sense in me where I was like, okay, I think it's time I go off of these and I figure things out naturally. And I was very certain that was what I wanted to do. And yeah, from there on, I've had a long journey of managing my anxiety from a bit more of a holistic place.
Wow, that's such a journey that you went through. And also thank you for sharing all of that with us. I really appreciate that. So what was your experience? And so you said that you were, if you're comfortable talking about this, that you were on SSRIs and then you ultimately went off of them. Is that correct? So you went off of them? Yeah. What was your experience and what made you want to get off of them? I've heard from many people kind of similar to what you said, is that they felt like they weren't themselves anymore. It's like they didn't care about anything anymore. And they were just blasé about life and not really concerned about anything, and to the point where it was actually hindering them from living their lives.
Exactly. I felt very similarly. And I think the only thing I can really bring it back to is just like this intuitive feeling I had. I was young. I was like 19 and I was like, I think it's time I go off of these and try, because like I knew that the way I ignored my anxiety and tried to deny it and didn't get to the root of things, I knew it wasn't healthy, but it also was just like I didn't have it in me as a teenager to want to face it. But then as I was at this stage in my life where I felt really independent, I was at university and moved across the country away from my family, I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna give this a go. And I don't know, do you know Dr. Ellen Vora? Have you ever heard of her?
No.
Okay, she's an amazing psychiatrist and she focuses a lot on anxiety. She has a book called The Anatomy of Anxiety. And she actually just brings up some really awesome points about just this idea of meds and the fact that a lot of the time doctors, first of all, we don't try the natural routes or things like diet and lifestyle. And okay, what's actually making you anxious in the first place?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. But secondly, we don't talk about the side effects very often. And thirdly, we don't talk about withdrawal symptoms and coming off of them. And I feel really grateful that, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse that I was like really stubborn. And I was like, you know what, I'm going off of these. And I don't recommend people do this, but I did just go off of them cold turkey. And it was really hard. I spent months like feeling really depressed and like having inconsolable crying and not knowing what was going on. But I also knew I'd read enough about it that I was like, okay, I know this is just part of coming off of these, but it's really challenging and it's a hard thing. And I think it's like something that we need to talk about more. It's not an easy process to transition off of them too.
Yeah, I've actually heard this. I heard a psychiatrist talk about this one time, and she shared her experience was actually shocking to me. She was trained in the conventional allopathic route and was putting all of her patients, as many do, on SSRIs and all these other medications. And as she started feeling like they weren't, not for everyone, but she felt like for a lot of her patients, they weren't helping them anymore. And as she started trying to get them off, she said at one point in her words, she said, I felt like I had a rehab clinic, because she was like, everyone coming off the drugs she was like, it was as if everyone was coming off like heroin and cocaine and all these like really crazy drugs. And that's when she started digging into more, other lifestyle and diet changes, because she was like, one, I felt like for many people, the drugs weren't helping them anymore past a certain point. And two, she saw the withdrawals that people were going through. And she was like, I don't even want to put people through this in the first place. And I want to be very careful. And I want to say this for everyone listening. And I always try to say this anytime I talk about medication or anything like this. One, I don't want anyone to feel ashamed if they are on medication. And I don't want to say that there isn't a time and a place that we need them, because I absolutely believe in having medications for when we really need them. So I'm not advocating against them. My whole thing is that I really believe in informed consent. And I think many people they're not given the whole truth of it. And I think many times, especially in America, we are so quick to prescribe drugs before actually sitting down and having a conversation with someone like, okay, what's your social life like? What's your diet like? Are you getting enough sleep? There are certain foods that we're eating that are contributing to our anxiety. Our hormones. I'm going through this right now where I'm realizing that my hormones are all out of whack. So I'm working with a doctor trying to figure that out before I go on any sort of medication, because I like to practice root cause, and I just want people to have informed consent. So knowing, first of all, that there are things that you can do, which is something I want to talk to you about today, before taking that step. And if you have exhausted everything else, you've done it, you've seen all the doctors, you've gotten all the blood work done, and you're still feeling this way and that you need to go on medication, then great. That's what we have it for.
I actually work with a lot of people who, they're still on their meds and it's working, and we're also doing diet stuff. And it's like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can do both. And like you said, there gets to that point where maybe you have tried everything and then that is the right time, but it's like everyone has their own level of what is right and what
exactly.
isn't.
And I'm not here to judge what that level is for people. I just want everyone to be fully informed on all the facts, make the decisions that are best for themselves. And that's
exactly. Yeah. And for people to feel empowered and inspired, because I think there's sometimes with the idea of anxiety or any like mental health condition, there sometimes is this like language that you're broken or there's something wrong with you. And that is not true. That couldn't be further from the truth. It's such a big picture thing to look at.
Absolutely. It's a huge picture thing. And one of them too, which I would love to talk about a little bit, because I don't think this is spoken about enough. And I mentioned this, was hormones. So hormones can have a huge effect on your depression, anxiety. And I read that there was a study done that I wish I could remember the exact percentage, but it's a really high percentage amount of women that end up going on antidepressants or SSRIs after they go on birth control, because birth control is directly linked to depression in women. And it's like a lockstep, like you go on birth control and then all of a sudden you're depressed and you don't know why. And so then they put you on antidepressant medication instead of just informing the women in the first place. It could be your birth control, because messing with your hormones is causing anxiety and stress.
I love that you're so open and do share about birth control, because there really is such a link to that. And a lot of the time too, sometimes it's just like, I don't want to say simple, but it is just like a hormonal imbalance, like even for people who aren't on birth control, that is causing them to be super anxious, like especially leading up to their periods. A lot of women see that. And one of the most common hormonal imbalances we see is like sky high estrogen levels and too low progesterone levels. And that is like textbook. You are going to feel anxious before your period, likely, if you're facing that. So you're so right. And then there is that correlation of being on birth control, and it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. So what are some of the, okay, so let's explain this for people. Like, why would our diet and our gut health be directly affected to our anxiety and our hormones? So I know 70% or something of our serotonin is made in our gut. And then we have that connection of the vagus nerve from our gut to our brain. What exactly is happening there?
Yes. Great question. Yeah. So I think you nailed the two main areas I like to talk to people about. So the first one is neurotransmitters. So it's actually over 90% of serotonin is produced within our gut. Over 50% of dopamine is produced within our gut. And then we also have gut bacteria that help to synthesize and increase reception of GABA in the brain. And GABA is like our best friend when we're feeling anxious. It's an inhibitory neurotransmitter that's super calming. These are, really main examples. And if we don't have this like beautiful, healthy, diverse gut biome, we're not going to be producing those neurotransmitters in our base, or we'll be producing them, but not in the adequate levels we need. So that is a really big one. And then, the vagus nerve. So that's like our largest nerve connecting our gut and our brain. A lot of communication goes on there between the gut and the brain. And that's a huge impact as to why. So if we have a super inflamed gut, our vagus nerve is going to communicate with our brain, and that's going to create inflammation, which is now a new huge, or it's not new, but it's a more talked about field of research, this idea of neuroinflammation, which is inflammation within our brain. And then it also works other ways. So if you're feeling super anxious, your vagus nerve is going to communicate with your gut and be like, oh yeah, send the stress signals down there. And that's oftentimes why there's such a link between anxiety and digestive issues, IBS, so many of these other kind of conditions that are showing up. They really are such a two-way street. And it's like the chicken or the egg.
Would you recommend everyone being a probiotic, or do people mean? I'm a huge proponent for getting lab work done first so you can really see what's going on. But how does someone maybe that is dealing with anxiety or depression listening to get to the bottom of, okay, is it my gut bacteria? What's happening? What would you suggest people do?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a pretty safe bet. I agree. I think lab work's amazing, and even getting like a gut GI test and do GI mapping and see, because it can even show up like, oh, you're actually really low in this bacteria that's super beneficial to help produce these neurotransmitters or whatever. But it's usually a safe bet. In today's day, the state of our food system, it's like a safe bet. Most people are struggling with gut issues if they are also struggling with it. And you bring up a really interesting question about the probiotic. Like, I think, a lot of nutritionists, and I know you're a nutritionist too, Courtney, I'd love to hear your perspective, because like most people are just like, take a probiotic, it's great, whatever. But I think there is this idea where we've made them the new like magic bullet solution, and it's just take a probiotic and like your gut health should improve. And it's like, for some people they do, but a lot of newer research is coming out saying it's actually best just for like short term. And if we're just kindly taking the same probiotic of the same strains, we're not actually diversifying our microbiome the way that we need to really have this healthy, thriving gut. And I'm personally a huge fan of fermented foods. So anything from naturally fermented sauerkraut to kimchi, kefir, like high quality yogurts, miso paste, like all of these things are amazing and they're living. And I think they're a great way to really support your gut health. And I always try to encourage my clients, it's like, okay, let's get you on at least one fermented food a day and focus on that more than just, okay, what probiotic should you have? So that's how I feel about probiotics.
Yeah, actually, I very much agree with you too. But had we talked about this a couple of years ago, I would have said something differently, but I feel the same way. We got so probiotic happy, and then everyone was taking the same probiotic, the same one day in, day out for years. And after a while, it's okay. You're feeding your gut the same bacteria every single day with that probiotics. So I'm of the mind, similar to you, where I think we need to be getting our probiotics from all these different sources. So sauerkraut, fermented yogurts, et cetera, all the stuff that you mentioned. And then if you were recently on antibiotics, things like that, where you actually need to be probably adding more in good gut bacteria, then that's when I would say do a good probiotic. And then also too, I really like Just Thrive probiotics, but I like to switch them out. Like I've been taking a different probiotic each month and just trying to build up my gut bacteria with different strains and from different companies, really good probiotics that I know that are actually like sourced well and bioavailable and all that. But I think it really is about diversifying your gut microbiome.
Totally, totally. Yeah, I completely agree and echo everything you say, because those are the two times I'm like, yes, let's really focus on a probiotic, is if you've been on antibiotics and if you've been traveling and maybe pick something up. And I love that idea too of cycling probiotics and trying different ones. And for some people too, like certain strains actually just don't feel that good for other ones. Like we need different ones. So I think that's a very brilliant call.
Thank you. It goes back to, we're also bio-individual. And I think people are finally starting to really wake up to this, that we can't just give a blanket statement and say, okay, everyone needs to be on this one probiotic, because like you said, different strains affect different people. Is also, I have a totally different microbiome than you do. Then we have different microbiomes than everyone listening. So, and how do we, unless if you get extensive testing done of your gut, like you're probably going to have to maybe experiment a little bit with what works for you, try different ones, see what makes you feel better. And if you're really concerned, get some tests done.
Yeah. And then just on this topic of gut health too, I think sometimes, we sort of like stop the conversation around probiotics and now a little bit about fermented foods, but it's like, there's so much more we can do for our gut health. And whether that's be like increasing the diversity in our diet, I think that one's huge. Eating a wide variety of different types of veggies and plants and whole foods, that kind of thing is a really awesome one. And then even just like nature and like being, I know you're a fan of Zach Bush as well. And like, he always says
Love
that,
him.
yeah, he's the best.
Yes.
But like he has that like hashtag that he founded, which was breathe your biome. And that is so brilliant. And I think, again, tying it back to the anxiety piece, I think, of course, anxiety is so multifaceted, and it's diet, it's lifestyle, it's all of these things. And another big piece of the puzzle is like time in nature and like connection to who we truly are, which is like we're a part of nature. And I think it's such a cool thing to get to go on a hike and breathe in all the diversity within your ecosystem and unplug and be connected and slow down. So that's just like scraping the surface. There really is so much we can do to support our gut.
Yeah. What are some of the other things that we can support our gut? And I have so many questions about that, but let's say first, what are some other ways that people can support their gut outside of the microbiome?
One big thing that I'm super interested in is just, I guess it's still related to our food system, but just like focusing on the quality of their food. And again, going back to anxiety and the link with all of it there, like glyphosate, which is the most commonly sprayed herbicide worldwide, it's actually been found now to, first of all, impact our gut membrane and really has a huge impact on the diversity in our biome. And also it harms the tight junctions of our gut membrane. So that's a huge one. And then it's also, recent studies have found that it actually has an impact on our nervous system. So focusing on, and we get so caught up in this food's bad, this food's good, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, let's look at the quality and like how things were growing and sprayed with chemicals that are going to be inflammatory and are going to impact your nervous system and your gut health and that kind of thing. And I know that's like a huge topic we could dive into, because I think that, and it's a huge reason as to why we're facing so many gut issues, is we've lost this quality in our soil and we've lost the kind of integrity with the way we grow food.
Well, and to go back to that diversity piece, we're losing the diversity in our soil as well. With all the different plants, we're killing off the ecosystem of the soil essentially. And we are now learning that we are only as healthy as our soil is, because we get our nutrients from the soil, and our soil gets this nutrient, or because our plants get the nutrients from the soil, and we are killing the whole ecosystem of the soil by spraying it with glyphosate and all these other herbicides and pesticides. And then I want to add on to that as well. This is such a great point, that glyphosate has been known to be an antibiotic as well. So it's literally killing off the bacteria in our bodies. We are more bacteria than we are human cells, and we are killing all that bacteria off and acting it's no big deal. I think it's more that just people don't really know yet what's really happening with the glyphosate.
It's so true. Yeah. And then circling back again, it's because like our soil is so depleted of nutrients, like our bodies and brains aren't getting the nutrients they need. And we see this in anxiety all the time, like low levels of magnesium, of zinc, all of these really important trace minerals that once upon a time we found in our soil. And it's like the levels are just getting lower and lower. And then I think that's another huge one I see in people struggling with anxiety, is this like being nutrient deficient. And yeah, that's like a huge factor in their soil health.
Okay, so let's talk about that too, because this is another really big one as well. I've noticed that when my magnesium is low, and I actually just got some blood work done and my magnesium was pretty low. And I was like, no wonder my anxiety is through the roof right now. So I've been supplementing magnesium. Yeah, let's talk about that. So what are some of the deficiencies that you're seeing and why? So for example, you're seeing magnesium deficiency linked to anxiety. Why is that?
Yeah, I think magnesium is it's funny. It's like the one not the one. I have a couple supplements that I truly love, but like magnesium is like my holy grail of supplements. If I would say goodbye to all of them as long as I could still have my magnesium. And I take it before bed and I find it super calming. And it's just like a very calming mineral. And it's so important for brain function. And also like anyone that has like tight, achy muscles and they're not sure why, that can be a magnesium deficiency issue. And it's funny because too, I think sometimes we like limit nutrients and we're like, oh, this nutrient is good for this one thing, but no, they work in this like beautiful cascade together. And the minute we're deficient in one, the other one gets thrown off. And it's this funny thing where like we need them all in these healthy balance levels. But yeah, I'm a big fan of magnesium. And yeah, I also like some of the other ones in terms of deficiencies, like vitamin D is a huge one. And I know I'm in California right now, but I'm from Canada. And it's like people that don't supplement with vitamin D in Canada winters, it's guys, we have to. And we do. I still do here in California and I encourage most people to. But vitamin D deficiency is a huge one that affects our brain. Omega-3s and just, I know, Courtney, you're from all of your amazing food videos on Instagram and stuff, like talking about like inflammatory seed oils and things like that. And this high ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, like we need those omega-3 fatty acids. And yes, there's so many vitamins and minerals that we're like missing just by the way of our food system.
Yeah. And this is a big problem. I had someone recently DM me and they were trying to fight me on this saying like, no, we can get all of our nutrients from our food. And I used to be of that mind. When I first started going to school, I stopped taking all supplements, actually, except for probiotic, which is so funny because I was like, that's the one that I felt like I needed to supplement. But as I started learning about the depleting health of our soil and realizing that even with organic food, even the foods that we are not directly spraying with like glyphosate and all these other herbicides and pesticides, they're still not getting as much nutrients from the soil because we've in one way or another killed the soil with the monocropping and the tilling. Like we're doing a lot of stuff right now to really destroy that soil health. And as a result, our plants do not have as much bioavailable minerals and vitamins as they once did. It's just a sad reality of our modern times.
I know. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And it was the exact same where I was like, I'm a nutritionist. I focus on whole foods and like, going to get it from their diet. It's going to be so amazing. And then I look at my diet and it's like, I feel like I eat really well. And I still feel like there's things that I'm missing and that I do need to supplement with. And another factor is just like stress in and of itself is depleting. And like our body uses more resources if we are anxious or stressed. And so even just these simple things to really support our immunity and support that stress function, it's if we have the ability to give our bodies that extra little boost, as long as it's like good quality and you're not going supplement happy and just focusing on that, I think they are an important part, unfortunately, in a way, in today's day.
Do you think that there are foods that are proliferating the problem further and causing more anxiety and stress in the body?
When you look at our grocery store shelves, it's like a lot of the foods that we see there, and it's not even foods, it's like ingredients, because it's like whole foods. It's like, I'm the biggest advocate, as long as you're not like allergic to certain food. It's I think all whole foods are amazing and high quality animal proteins. And these things are so important and what make up a healthy diet. But it's like the red dye number 40, all the additives, the seed oils, like these are the things that I think there's so many different mechanisms that it impacts our brain. A huge one is just inflammation. Another one is just like impacting our nervous system. Like the dyes and stuff, they're actually found to impact our nervous system. So I think like just so much of our modern food system and the ingredients that we put in our food are really impacting our brain health and triggering anxiety. And then there was another one. Oh, and then I guess just an area we haven't touched on yet, which is so important when we're talking about anxiety and nutrition, is blood sugars. And like the fact that so many of our processed foods and refined grains, refined sugars, high fructose corn syrup, that's in a lot of these foods that we see on the shelves, they cause huge spikes in our blood sugars. And especially if we're not paying attention to eating balanced meals throughout the day. And if we do have something sweet, it's like, are we having it as a dessert, as a little treat after a balanced meal? Or are we eating this on an empty stomach and it's going to cause our blood sugar, our blood glucose levels to spike and then cause a quick release of adrenaline and then the slower release of cortisol and like throw us off all day. So I think just the way foods are so processed these days and void of nutrients, void of fibers, and then added with all of these other kind of weird ingredients. It's all this huge issue that does make us anxious.
Yeah, there's so much sugar and everything, sugar and things that people don't even realize. And God, I found a high fructose corn syrup in salad dressing the other day.
No.
I also found white sugar in feta crumbles.
Oh.
Yeah, it's becoming to the point of complete absurdity. And we need to be more careful than ever of the ingredients that are in our food. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, save your sugar for where it counts. Save it for when you have that cookie or that dessert that you really want, that you're craving, or the dark chocolate or whatever it is. You do not need to be having 10 grams of sugar in your salad.
Totally.
And you're not going to miss it if you're buying the salad dressings that don't have sugar. But yeah, that's a huge one. With our blood sugar constantly spiking and then crashing, that's going to cause stress and anxiety in the body. And then guess what? When your body is stressed and inflamed, then you're also going to feel stressed. So that is a really big one. And I think being more mindful of eating more high quality protein, high quality fat with our carbohydrates so that we're not only spiking and then crashing with the blood sugar is a big one too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's when that one is so huge. And two, I think in our day, we're getting so caught up in the world of nutrition. It's, should I be paleo? Should I be keto, vegan, intermittent fasting, all of these things? And I think they all have their best benefits and downfalls and whatnot. But can we just go back to this idea of whole foods, eating a whole foods based diet? And it's just, I think that is where so many people are like, what? I didn't know like anxiety and nutrition was a thing. And so when I tell them what I do, and then people ask, okay, what's like the one thing I can do to help my anxiety with my diet? And it's like, really, it's going back to the basics of, is your diet made primarily of whole foods? And by whole foods, it's really just foods found in nature and minimally processed. When it's like the things you said, it's nuts, it's seeds, it's high quality animal proteins, pasture raised eggs, complex carbohydrates like yams, carrots, beets, like all of these things that are really grounding, and leafy greens, all of those kind of things. That's where the true money is when it comes to our diet and mental health.
I love this because I think too is just in general eating the more hyper processed, highly palatable food like products, I like to call them, because they're not even, most of them are real food. So if we can get back to a place where we're focusing on eating whole real foods, yeah, it's going to obviously overall help your body and your gut and everything. And as a result, things are going to start falling into line. Yeah, it's a really important part of the conversation because we're not eating real food anymore.
Totally. It's
and then we're wondering,
true.
Yeah. And then we're wondering why we're all stressed out and our guts are inflamed. And maybe we have the 5 pounds that we wish that we could get rid of that we can't. Like there's all these things happening, the blood sugar issues, and we need to be focusing on eating whole real foods.
Absolutely.
And a lot of those issues will go away.
Yeah, it's so true. And I can just speak for my life and like my experience, how I said that when I went off my anxiety meds, I was like in this place of like blank canvas. And I was like, okay, I will do anything. Like at that point, I was feeling in my lowest of lows. And it actually took 3 years because like I was so slow. Not that I was slow, but it's like this stuff wasn't talked about. I didn't have the resources, and it was talked about. I just probably couldn't find it, but it's becoming more mainstream. But it was like, yeah, like at that place of feeling really anxious, and my anxiety was almost getting worse and worse. I actually was diagnosed with OCD, and I was like, had these moments where I was like terrified to leave my house, and it was really crazy. And I was going to talk therapy and doing these different things, but it was like, finally, it was like all of these little pieces that I started to put together where it was like, okay, I need to start going to yoga. I need to slow down. I need to get in touch with nature. I ended up going to CBT, which is like cognitive behavioral therapy. And that was amazing. And then I started eventually the diet piece came where it was like, okay, I need to, and this was before I was a nutritionist. So I didn't really understand blood sugars, but I had this idea where I was like, if I got hungry, I would start to feel really anxious. And now I call that anxious. You know how people get hangry?
Yes, hangry, yeah.
It's like, you can get anxious too. It's, when you're hungry and you're feeling your blood sugars drop, but those were the kind of things that really helped me. And also like giving up coffee. That was huge. Yeah. And I'm not like someone to say like all coffee's bad, but it's like the way we chronically caffeinate in our society. It's like that does impact our brain and our cortisol levels. And it's like finding that healthy balance. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to bring that back to people because it can feel overwhelming to be like, okay, what do I do? What don't I do? And it really is this beautiful opportunity when we are feeling anxious and we are open to trying these different things. You got to experiment and see what things work and stick and don't, but it really does go back to the basics of whole foods diet and nourishing from that place of body, mind, self-love, and then the other components too of finding a therapist that works or a type of therapy that works, slowing down. There's so many amazing things we could talk about the journey of really learning to manage our anxiety and finding that place of peace.
I just had Samantha Gilbert on, and we did an entire episode about OCD and nutritional deficiencies that are often linked to OCD. So I think it's really interesting that there is that component even came up because oftentimes, not always, but often if those nutritional deficiencies are addressed, things like OCD, anxiety, all of this that we're talking about go down, if not completely diminish, depending on whatever your personal journey is. I know you had mentioned food dyes. Are there other things, or maybe you can talk more about food dyes? Are there things that we are eating that maybe are directly causing more stress and anxiety? And I think there is that component with the food dyes and the fact that our FDA allows us in our food, and they're generally recognized as safe, but that's a bullshit term if you ask me, because there's a lot of things that are generally recognized as safe that are on the market that shouldn't be.
Totally. Yeah. The food dyes is a huge one. It's an interesting one because in my eyes, it's so unnecessary. First of all, like you can dye food with really cool things these days, like beets and turmeric, and like it is really cool. But yeah, that I would say is a really big one. And then another one, and this kind of links back to blood sugars, but like the high fructose corn syrup that really is just so sweet. Our bodies and our minds, like that's too much for them to like be able to take on and process and things. So that's a really big one. Another one I see a lot is like the artificial sweeteners, like aspartame can really impact our nervous system. And yeah, it's hard too, because I feel like, there's so many additives, and you can definitely find studies on a lot of them, but it's hard because people are like, no, just a little bit though, it doesn't hurt. But it's like this bioaccumulation of all these different things every single day has a huge impact on our nervous system.
That's a big one. Oh, and the caffeine thing I think is really important for people to understand too. People are drinking like 3 to 4 coffees a day, and then they're scratching their head wondering why they're anxious. I can tell you why you're anxious. You're drinking too much caffeine.
Exactly.
So that's a big one too. And I had to really check myself with that. I allow myself 1 cup of coffee a day, and that is it. And I make my own like cold brew at home, and I dilute it with water. So I feel like the caffeine that I get is very low. But for a while, when I was really struggling with anxiety, something that really helped me a lot was taking out the coffee entirely. And I was doing matcha. But now that I've gotten to a more like steady place with it, I feel like I can have 1 cup of coffee and be fine. But if I have more than that, I am like a jittery mess and I can't function, and the anxiety is through the roof. So that's a really important one to note too, I think. Okay. So then I want to go a little bit into, I think too, like addressing emotional traumas, addressing things, whether that be, I would say, address it with a professional. So in therapy, or someone who's licensed to help you move through maybe traumas or whatever that you've dealt with in your life. Cause that's also a really big one. I have a friend, and he was telling me recently that after he addressed some of his traumas, he released some of his emotions that he was holding on to for a long time, that he was able to eat more foods again because he was not dealing with all this trauma and stress that he had been carrying around for a long time. And he used to be really rigid with his diet. And I'm not saying like that you shouldn't not be eating the food dyes and stuff like that. Like he still eats organic and healthy, but I'm just saying that there's a huge testament to the fact that we could also be carrying around traumas or emotional things that we have not dealt with that also really affect our nervous system. And we could be totally subconsciously, it's all subconscious. We're not even consciously aware of it.
Yes, that's such a good point you make. And it's so true. It's like our body really does store trauma. And I think it's this hard thing because we can't see it, and sometimes you can't even feel it until it's healed. And then all of a sudden you just like feel lighter. And that's a really cool story about the foods. Yeah. From that friend you mentioned. It doesn't surprise me at all. It's very cool.
Yeah. He was like, the foods that used to affect me, like gluten and stuff, just don't even affect me anymore, because I really healed myself around a lot of this. And he's still like in the health world, and he eats organic and healthy foods. I still focus on eating whole real foods, but he's like, I'm not so regimented and strict in the sense I won't eat like X, Y, and Z foods, because before they were really affecting his gut. And now that he's healed some of his emotional traumas, they're not affecting him as much.
That's amazing. That's so beautiful. And yeah, it's so liberating. And that's always a place that I hope people can get to, especially like when I work with my clients and stuff, because there is this whole other piece of, I never want the food to become the anxiety.
Yeah,
it's like, if we're not dealing it from that true holistic place and looking at all these things, it can be so easy to just become obsessed with our food and be like, okay, I can't eat this and I can't eat this because it's going to make me anxious. It's going to make me anxious. And but we're missing the point there. We're using our diet is just a tool. I always say that it's like a tool to live our best life. And the minute it gets in the way of that, then it's okay, let's dial it back. And for me, it's like, I like to share, like when I was like eating my cleanest, quote unquote, it's like, I was in some ways like the most anxious a part of it because I didn't understand deeper parts of nutrition, like nutrient deficiencies and things like that and whatnot. But I think another part of it is because I was putting so much pressure on myself. And it's, now in the same way, it's like, I'll eat organic pretty much all the time, unless it's like out at a restaurant and stuff. But then I do feel so much more liberated. And I have things that like back in the day, like I didn't eat any dairy, and now I can have some like amazing organic feta cheese or goat cheese, and I feel great. And I used to feel really sick from this. And I think it's finding that balance and like giving ourselves that space to feel free in our diet is another huge piece.
I love the way that you just put that, because this is incredibly important. And I do think that trying to think of how to word this, because I feel the same way, that even though obviously on my Instagram, you go to my Instagram and even on my podcast, I talk all the time about the importance of avoiding these hyper palatable foods and really focus on eating whole, real foods. But then people write me and say, well, you're just perpetuating an eating disorder. And obviously that's the last thing I want to do, is create more anxiety for people around food. What my message that I'm really trying to get out, and I think you and I are very aligned in this, is what we said earlier, is that I want to broaden your spectrum of whole, real foods. What I'm saying is that these, let's say, the like Cheetos and Doritos and I don't know, Hostess cupcakes, whatever people are eating, in my mind, I don't even consider those to be food. Like in my mind, that's Play-Doh. We don't eat Play-Doh. So I'm trying to help people understand that if we can broaden our spectrum of all of the amazing whole, real foods that we can eat, that are accessible to us, that are so delicious and give us life and help us not live with so much anxiety and don't have these effect on our nervous system and our blood glucose levels and all that stuff. If we can just get in our mind that those highly palatable food like products that really just exist because they make these companies a lot of money and they really do nothing for our bodies, then to me, like I don't feel any stress and anxiety around it, because I see a bag of Doritos and I'm like, oh, that's Play-Doh. We don't eat Play-Doh.
Yes, totally.
You know? Like it's not even an option
same
for me.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's like 2023. And I really, you do such a good job, like I said, on your videos, where it's like, there are like not perfect, completely unprocessed foods, but they're like healthier versions of all our favorites, like buying some organic chips with avocado oil, like these kind of things. It's like, there's often always just like a better alternative for these like really low quality, not foods that we're being faced with on the shelf. So I think that's such a good point. And it's, another great, like I was just thinking, I feel really similar. Like I'm the biggest chocolate fan and I love good dark chocolate and stuff. But if someone gave me like a Mars bar or a Kit Kat, I'm like, that's not chocolate in my head, because it's like, I know that the other things that are in it, it's like, I don't see it. It's like, I don't miss it. But if it was like a beautiful, like whatever other kind of chocolate bar, it's, oh my goodness. Yeah, I can have the whole thing.
Oh my God, put a Hugh Kitchen chocolate bar in front of me and good luck getting it back, because
exactly.
Yes, exactly. So I want people to understand that we're not trying to create more anxiety around food. I'm trying to give you freedom, because these foods, so I think Sean Stevenson was on my podcast recently, and I really liked the way that he put this. And he was like, look, we live in modern times. We're not saying that you can't ever eat a food that's packaged, because yes, like there's a huge difference between hyper processed foods versus a food that's processed. So for example, I would say, okay, like a Simple Mills cracker, for example, where you look at the ingredients on the back. Yes, that is a processed food, but it still resembles like real food. Maybe this isn't like a great example of it, but still you can tell that the cracker is made with almonds and sea salt. Like it's pretty like self-explanatory, and there's not a ton of ingredients on there, and every single ingredient on there you recognize as real food. It's not like fillers and all this other crap. Whereas let's say a Twinkie, he's like, you look at a Twinkie and you're like, literally, what is this even made out of? There's not even remotely any hint of any resemblance of food at all. What is that made out of?
Yeah. You could never buy those ingredients from the grocery store to remake it.
Exactly. So I just felt like it was really important for people to understand this, especially as we're talking about anxiety and what you said. I don't want to create more anxiety around food. I want people to understand that there's so much freedom that comes along with when you start nourishing your body with whole, real foods, and you can still find the foods that you love and enjoy. Just, they're not going to be like Doritos.
Totally. I think you said that so well. And it's a really important topic because there is such a fine line of becoming obsessed versus just knowing. And I think that it goes back to this place that we mentioned with the meds where it's education, and it's like just making sure that like we know that the impacts and whatnot. And I think unfortunately we don't learn it in school unless you go to nutrition school.
I know. Added to the list of things that we should be learning in school that we don't, that would actually be helpful.
Totally.
Like doing our taxes. Are there any things that we haven't covered yet that you think is really important to cover?
Just knowing that alcohol can be a huge trigger. Like a term, I didn't coin this one, but it's called like, what do they say it? It's anxiety. Yeah. It's like, you're going to feel anxious if you're hungover. And it's like, that's a big one too, where like when I was trying to really tackle my anxiety head on, it's like, I just gave up alcohol for a few years because it was really triggering. Like I'd have a few sips and I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm through the roof. So I think, again, if someone's feeling super, super heightened, it's like, it's important to look at these things. And I know it probably doesn't need to be forever. So that's a cool one.
Yeah. And isn't it so interesting that so many of us, myself included, so I'm not pointing fingers here, but so many of us drink to quell like social anxiety, or if we've had a really bad day, or if we're feeling anxious, it's pretty like normal to just have like a glass of wine. Oh, I've had a terrible day, or I've been so anxious all day, I really need a drink. And then the next day, like I've noticed the same thing. I've really been cutting back on my drinking. I rarely drink anymore. Because I have that thing, like sometimes even I'll have one glass of wine I'll wake up the next day and be anxious. I can't even handle it. And I'm like, oh my God, it was the wine last night. What the hell? Or like the one margarita that I had really did me dirty.
Totally. Yeah. I'm the exact same way. And it's again, just education and being aware. And like, also I find like a good example was like I got married in August, and it was like, I definitely had, thank you. I had way more drinks than I probably had in years. And it's like, I wasn't really that hungover because it was just like high vibes and it was fun and we were eating and drinking and dancing all day. So it's like, I think there is that like place of like celebration. And it's like the same for like certain foods and stuff. We want people to live a whole life. And for some people, it's like, absolutely no alcohol, and that is like the place. And then for other people, it maybe is a part of celebration or whatever it is, but just like knowing what works for you and what are your limits. And I feel like it can be really fun to not drink and just have to face some of that social anxiety a little bit and realize, oh, I'm actually really great when I'm sober. I'm pretty chatty and charming or whatever.
I love that. Okay. So I like to always leave people with kind of a tangible thing of, okay, so if let's say someone's listening and they're like, okay, I'm dealing with anxiety, what are some of the first steps as far as taking back a hold of their life, trying to get rid of the anxiety, or I don't want to say get rid of it, but maybe quell the anxiety a little bit?
Yeah. Okay. So what are kind of like some good first steps to focus on?
Yeah. Like I'll say number one, I would say get your hormones tested and test for nutritional deficiencies and start there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great place to give you like a base level of where you're at. I think that's huge. I think another one would be like, in terms of like really tangible things, I think just going back to this idea, I like to like teach people in like the idea of a blood sugar balancing plate. So I like to say, okay, have half your plate as some sort of veggie, leafy green, whatever it is. And then including a quality protein source, healthy fats throughout your meal, whether that's cooking with some beautiful avocado oil or using like our olive oil, or like doing a really healthy salad dressing on your leafy greens, adding avocado, whatever it might be. And then also including like a complex carbohydrate, whether that's some baked yams or beets or quinoa or whatever, and like really building your meals balanced. And I know for some people that might be like, okay, I'm a bit far away from that, but just going to this idea of really including these whole foods in your meals. And it can just be like these simple swaps, but like really eating. I like to encourage people to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, balanced meals. Like, it doesn't need to be like crazy different. It's just like really focusing on the balance in the whole foods.
Yeah, I really love that. And then I think I would add on top of that, if you're able to be mindful of buying more organic foods, because like we said earlier, the pesticides, the herbicides. And then my last piece would be get in nature every day if you can. Because I've noticed with myself, this is something we didn't really talk about a lot. I actually went on a hike this morning with a girlfriend. We went at 7:30. And I looked at her and I was like, we got to get out here earlier more often, I think. I also believe there's something about those morning hours, the birds chirping and just being in nature where it's quiet. Your phone isn't going off. You're not like, no one's trying to reach you. there is really something to be said about just having that quiet time in nature that really helps to calm your nervous system and bring you just back down to earth.
Totally. Yeah. And then adding that other component that you mentioned there on the walk is like connecting with friends and community. And yeah, it's funny because I used to live on a small Gulf island off the coast of Canada, Vancouver, and we lived in a little cabin and we like grow our own food. And I'm so excited to one day go back and do all of that. But I did notice at points I felt super lonely and anxious. I was like doing all the holistic stuff and it did wonders for my gut health, I think. But it's adding in that like community and connection piece, I think is so big, and true like connection. And I think we spend so much time on our phones or whatever it is. I'm guilty of it. But I think just, if you can get in nature with a friend or a group of people, it's like you're just like doing wonders for your whole being. Yes. I think that's a great one. And I will add to that because when I used to garden, I always say like, don't garden with gloves on because you want to touch the soil and touch all the goodness. And two, like with nature, touch the dirt, touch the leaves, like really be in it, breathe your biome and be a part of your ecosystem.
Wow. I love that. Oh, now I want to go. Wish I could go put my hands in soil somewhere.
I know.
I would love to have a garden someday. I really hope to.
I feel like you will. You will make it happen.
I love that. Okay. So my last question for you before we go that I ask everyone is, what are your personal health non-negotiables? So things that you prioritize, no matter how crazy your day is, these are things that you do for your health.
Amazing. Okay. The first one is actually going for a walk or a run every single morning and just like having that solo time, or it doesn't have to be solo. I like doing it with people too, but just having that outdoor time. And I will say to my partner, it's like, I actually feel like I'm not living my day unless I've taken, and it can be 10 minutes, it can be an hour, like whatever it is, that I need that like time outside to move my body and just like wake up for the day and stuff. So that's like a huge non-negotiable. And then another one, I have a cup of chamomile tea every single night before bed. And it's like, I literally am like, will bring tea bags with me wherever I go and like sometimes go through great lengths to try to get some hot water for my tea. But it's truly a non-negotiable. I just love that. Again, like going back to that place to calm down. And it's like they anchor my day in really good way. And then I would say the other one would be like, those are like kind of like the two always non-negotiables, but then like really just focusing on getting in. If the day is crazy and it's like really just like one solid, like super blood sugar balancing meal, I always just feel like I need that kind of meal to feel alive and really have like lots of greens and things like that and animal protein and just like the whole balanced meal feels really good for me. So I try to make that happen every day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Also, can you share with everyone where they can find you?
Yeah, totally. So best place would be Instagram for like just daily connection and stuff. So I'm Meg, Meg DeJong, DEJONG.nutrition. And then, I have a website, which I'm sure we could link below, just megdeyoungnutrition.com. And I just joined TikTok. I'm still trying to figure it all out, but I'm the anxiety nutritionist on TikTok. And then, those are the best ways. And I work with people one-on-one. I have a Eat to Ease anxiety online course. And I'm always doing just some workshops and offerings and things like that. So lots of ways.
Thank you so much. This was really informative and I think it's going to help a lot of people. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Courtney. It was like just so nice to connect with you. And I really appreciate all the work you do too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And everyone, thank you for listening. I'll see you guys next week.